We'll blame it on you.
Your insanity came from me.
That's right. That's right. Yes. When they locked me up in an asylum one day.
I'm just saying, if I saw a 9-foot alien in my backyard, I'd be screaming about it.
That video is incredible, man. Yeah. There's something there. I don't know what it was, but there's something.
Later on the show, we don't dive into this later, but we're just obsessed with this story. Okay, on the show, Drew Dinsick will join us. We'll talk NBA playoffs and French Open with him. The French Open, by the way, let me just start there real quick. Rain, as I said yesterday on the show, there's going to be rain in some variety all week until Friday in Paris. It's almost as if you shouldn't schedule tennis's second major for rainy season in Paris. But they do.
I mean, everybody knows it's rainy season. That's for sure. We didn't just learn that yesterday.
No, not at all. We didn't get informed of that yesterday at all. So my 3 plays are, I believe they're about to start. I don't know. Maybe they won't start till later. But if they are about to start, and you are not on VSiN.com/picks, first of all, shame on you. You should be a subscriber. Every host, every guest, every sport, all our picks are there. I have 3. They have yet to start. Kelly, I'll start with the sexiest of them all. Do you want the sexiest of them all?
Sexy.
I have a plus 416 dog. Does that interest you at all?
Yeah, it does. It does interest me.
Kristina Mladenovic, who has really good clay court numbers, going up against Petra Martic. Martic, obviously the better player career-wise, but is not really has been more idle than anything else on this surface. Hasn't really gotten her reps in. And her numbers, quite frankly, aren't as good. People, part of the market price here has to do with Martic's 7-2 head-to-head dominance over Mladenovic. I'm not buying it. I took the plus 416. You can get it right around $4 right now. I'd play it. That is about to start. At least it seems so on the schedule. Nuno Borges on the men's side. I have him as a slight dog, and he is still that slight dog, only a few pennies off from the price I got him at.
Looks like that one has just started.
Nuno Borges just started?
Plus 135 live, though, if you want to get it. Literally, they haven't completed a game.
Yeah, that just started. Okay, so that started. That's why it's not on the board. Okay, that's underway. And then a little later on, we do have a favorite, Anna Karolina Schmiedlova. You know her, Kelly, don't you? Anna Karolina Schmiedlova?
Sure, yeah.
She is playing later on. She is minus 132, so right around the price I got her at, because I think I got her minus 131, so only a penny off against Sarah Errani. So it is Mladenovic, Borges just started, and Schmiedlova. Mladenovic and Schmiedlova on the ladies' side at the French Open. All right, NBA last night. By the way, in addition to Drew Dinsick, later on the show, we will have Matt Grissom. College baseball super regionals were determined yesterday. He's got all kinds of picks. This is actually the part he likes the best. Not just picking a winner of the College World Series, but he loves picking regional winners. So we'll talk to Matt Grissom later, and then Paul Sporer on Major League Baseball. NBA last night, the Celtics are on their way to the NBA Finals after sweeping the Indiana Pacers. 4 games in which it is very okay for you to say, Pacers probably should have won 3 of them. It's just true. And that's why when I walked in here into the casino, the lovely D here in downtown Las Vegas, you know, they got screens up everywhere because of the content. Mike Palm has made content management a big part of the deal here. So ESPN is on everywhere. And Greeny, Mike Greenberg, has his 5 most dominant championship runs ever. Is that what he called it?
I believe.
No, Greeny's top 5 most dominant runs, yes, to the NBA Finals.
To the NBA Finals.
All right, now we brought this up last week, and I brought up those 2017 Warriors. Remember where South Point put up a prop? Will they go 16-0? They went 14-0 before they lost one, and then they went 15-1. The 96 Bulls of Jordan, 2001 Lakers of Shaq and Kobe. Those were his top 3. His 5th was the 83 Sixers, the faux Sixers of Moses Malone. He has the Celtics of this year at 4. Stop it. Yes, I get it. They only lost 2 games. But they've hit the royal flush of injuries. Can we not do this? They're just filling airtime? Is that what they're doing over there?
Yeah.
By putting that in there?
I don't know how you do that. Okay. I actually don't even know how you put that. Didn't the Sixers team, don't you play one last round at that point, too?
I believe you do.
I don't even know how you can kind of compare those. I'm not saying it's not an all-time great team, but, like, if you're taking away 4 more wins or something from this conversation.
Yeah, I think you played one less. I think you did play one less round there.
I think I heard them say that this morning.
Yeah. Yeah, you did, because like 78 Bullets did as well. That's right.
So we talked a little bit about it last week, and there's a lot of these great runs, but it's
listen. I think the question we'll ask here is, it's not the Celtics' fault that they ended up playing teams that, in order, Jimmy Butler wasn't with the Heat. Donovan Mitchell played sparsely for the Cavaliers. Obviously here, Tyrese Halliburton didn't go in games 3 and 4. Let me just do the real quick, and I'm going to do it at the pace that it presented itself on screen last night. When the Pacers, by the way, the Pacers were up late in this game for those who missed it. They were up 98-90 late in this game, but at 102-98 Pacers, here's how the rest of this went. Tatum 2, 102-100 Pacers. Nesmith misses a 3. Horford rebound. Jaylen Brown ties at 102-102. McConnell misses. Tatum rebounds. McConnell steals from Tatum. Brown steals from Siakam. White misses a 3. Tatum offensive rebound. Tatum misses a 3. Nesmith rebound. Tatum steals from Nembhard. It's just the Pacers were playing at a pace where it was like, you guys think you're down 5 points? Like you were ahead and you're tied. Stop. Tatum steals from Nembhard. Brown misses layup. Siakam rebounds. Indiana timeout. 1 minute left because Rick Carlisle's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Stop. Everybody stop. Take a breather. Tie game, 1 minute left. Then Nembhard his layup was blocked by Brown. Horford rebound. That's when Derek White hit the 3 to make it 105-102. Nembhard misses a 3. Tatum rebound. Foul on Nesmith. Boston side out. Tatum arm bars the defender. Misses a 3. Holiday offensive rebound. Keep away ball game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was with final 3:33. They didn't score a point. Pacers didn't score a point.
Indiana's comedy of errors down the stretch is just missed shots, getting the ball stolen, getting the ball blocked. Like, one thing after another. By the way, can we talk about that arm bar for a second?
I mean, sure. He does it all the time. He did get called for it, I think, once or twice.
Once. He got on his 5th foul, he got called for it. And then he complained. He immediately goes like this. He's like, oh, you got to review that. No, you armbarred him.
It's actually one of the easier calls to make in the NBA because you get that extension. As soon as there's the extension.
It's easy to make. That last shot was an even more blatant armbar. No call. And this calls to mind something. I went the other night. We have, we're on Monday through Friday, so we don't get to talk the night after games every time. But when Luka hit the 3 over Gobert in Game 2, I texted Falika and Will, and I said, he traveled, right? And like, what are you talking about? I was like, just look at the replay. He takes 3 steps.
Yeah, that's one of the funny. I heard it's the gather step argument.
But so in today's day and age of NBA play, no one ever calls
right,
that.
Correct.
Because Will's correct response was, Harden takes 4 steps and they don't call it, right? But between that and the arm bar, keep in mind you have a Celtics team that's swept, and you have a Mavericks team that's up 3-0. We'll talk about the Mavericks and the T-Wolves Game 4 coming up. But what it calls to mind is that there was a day and age. I'm old enough to remember when David Stern was the commissioner of this league, right? There was a day and age when every NBA handicapper was saying all of this was fixed to extend series. And this ain't that anymore. Because if this was that, Luka would have been called for a travel, and Jason Tatum would have been called for the arm bar.
Oh yeah, I mean I think it's kind of happened in the NFL too, where we have all these reviewable plays now, which leads you to changing rules, which now rules are harder to enforce sometimes, and now there's new rules. I mean, like the take foul stuff the other night, like that. I mean, that was almost disastrous. What was that, Game 3, right, where there was the take foul at the end? I would have called it a take foul all season long. You can't in that moment, though. And so much of NBA officiating comes down to that, right, where it's, oh, cool, okay, you could have called this all game, but you can't do it now. You can't do it with 30 seconds left.
So we talked about this yesterday Memorial Day, so I'm not sure if you were on board with the show yesterday, but now, after last night, 155 occurrences in the history of the NBA where a team led 3-0. 0-155 in terms of the team down 3-0, coming back and winning the series. Of those 155 occurrences where a team is down 3-0, only 4 times out of those 155 has a team come back to force a Game 7. The Celtics against the Heat last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then they got crushed in Game 7. So that is what the T-Wolves are up against. And I get back to the Celtics. They are not to be blamed for who was presented in front of them. They are not to be blamed for the other team's injuries. Right now, hypothetical pricing, they are minus 225 against the Mavericks. The Mavericks are plus 185 on the comeback. And if the T-Wolves somehow were to buck that history, they are also an exact minus 225 against the T-Wolves, with the T-Wolves plus 185 on the comeback. That at DraftKings. Is everybody on earth? Let's assume it's the Mavericks because it's 0-155. You know what they say about assuming, and I made a case for the T-Wolves yesterday because Games 5 and 7 are at home for Minnesota. So if they were able to steal tonight, it's at least an easier path than it would be if they didn't have games 5 and 7 at home.
I'm a little worried about tonight. Derek Lively doubtful for this game. It does look like Maxi Kleber is going to be back for the game.
Here's my only question. Is everybody going to be on the Mavericks? Like everybody. I'm talking about the quote-unquote sharp bettors, the quote-unquote public bettors. I haven't heard one person say, I'm all about the Celtics at minus 225 against the Mavs.
I think that I think it's a great question. I'm very interested to see, because I have heard different things. I have heard that, like we talked yesterday, where we said yesterday, this might be the best price you're going to be able to get on the Mavericks, like right now, to win the NBA Finals, right, when we were looking at these look-ahead lines. And
also, it would be for the T-Wolves, hypothetically, too, by the way, if they were to win 4 in a row.
Oh, totally. Yeah, because that number would only go down. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. That's for sure, right? And I was talking to a couple people last night, and, man, they thought this would close Celtics minus 250 against the Mavericks. They were going to take Mavericks to take money, sharp money. And I'm interested to talk to Drew next to hear what he has to say, but I like Mavs.
Drew will have his quote-unquote fair price.
Yes, that's right.
On the other side, Drew Dinsick joins us, a numbers game, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
A numbers game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Numbers game presented by ZYN Nicotine Pouches, America's #1 nicotine pouch. Check everything out at ZYN.com. For a limited time only, we're slashing the price, by the way, of our annual subscription, normally $240. You can now secure your subscription for just $199. Signers today will throw in an extra 2 months for free. That's 14 months of VSiN Pro Access for less than 50 cents a day. When you use promo code ANG, let me do the math on that. Boop, 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 boop. It's less than $15 a month. Think about all the streaming services you're paying exponentially more for. This will actually make you money. Hurry, though. Special offer only available until Friday, May 31st. With VSiN Pro, you'll get immediate access to our daily best bets, complete with leaderboards showcasing the hottest VSiN experts, betting splits that reveal where the money and bets are trending for every game, exclusive betting systems, premium analysis, and 24/7 video content. Remember, though, the offer expires this Friday, May 31st, so visit VSiN.com/subscribe now to grab your 14 months of VSiN Pro for just $199 with promo code ANG.
ANG, like a numbers game where we have the securest subscriptions around.
That's VSIN.com/subscribe. That's Kelly Bidlin. I'm Gil Alexander. This gentleman comes to us as the co-host of not one, but 2 podcasts. The Deep Dive, which he does with his co-host Andy Molitor, and, of course, NBC Sports Bet the Edge with the Australian-accented Jay Croucher. I believe it's an authentic accent. Whale_Capper on Twitter, courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line. It's Drew Dinsick, everybody. How you doing, Drewski?
I'm doing great. Good to be with you guys this morning. Hope you had a good holiday weekend, and fired up for the French Open to really get going here. There's been, it's been a little bit of a slow start. Some of the weather, and just waiting for some of the more high leverage matches here. But this is a great time of year to be a sports fan, no question.
It is. It absolutely is. And I threw in my plays right at the top of the show because we don't know when these are going to start. So I just wanted to get them in before they actually did, because we had the opportunity. They were supposed to start earlier. You have any still pending today?
Yeah, I definitely do. I'm against GoFan. I can't even really pronounce this fellow's name, but he was, I believe, either the Lyon champion or the Lyon runner-up. Mteshi Pericard. We'll go with the GMP, French young French player. I'm into him at minus 122 over GoFan. I think that's drifted a bit, but still much higher quality tennis out of GMP than we're seeing from GoFan right now. And then I have a dog in play. I think it just started. I took Vachereau over Alexander Davidovich-Fokina.
Oh, wow.
I have Vachereau both +6 and some +350 in that one. So not a believer that Davidovich-Fokina is just going to stumble into form in this match.
You too with a large dog this morning. Yeah, so let's repeat those. Giovanni Impecci Pericard.
That sounds perfect.
GMP is the play, about minus 150-ish over David Goffin. And then you are also on Vachereau, both on the game line and on the money line, going against Alejandro Davidovich, I believe it's pronounced, Fokina. Okay, 2 on the men's side. And nothing, I guess the big headline so far, and we'll get to the NBA momentarily, but I guess the big headline is Maria Sakkari yesterday, who has spectacular clay numbers, but has now been bounced and she was yesterday by Varvara Gracheva. She was bounced in the first round at Roland Garros. She's now lost in the first round in 4 of her last 5 slams. There's no other way to say this, man. It has to be mental, right?
I mean, I would guess yes. And she's been candid about that. That was one of the kind of key plot points of her arc in the
Breaking
Netflix
Point.
Breakpoint show.
Yeah.
You watched that particular match. That should have been straight set Zachary. The set 2, she had 8 break chances, converted 1. Gracheva had 2 break chances, converted 2. So over the balance of the entire match, it was extremely lopsided in execution on the super high leverage points. 4 of 15 converted for Zachary, 5 of 6 converted for Gracheva. So that kind of tells the story of that match. And I thought, I guess maybe even more. That was probably like the key takeaway, which is when I do go to the French Open, I'm definitely going out to court Simone Mathieu for the sunset matches where you get the just perfect light, and that was a pretty one.
You know who said he might go, Kelly? Matt Brown. Matt Brown is going to like Ireland or something. And he said since he's in the neighborhood, he might just roll over to Paris and watch some French Open.
He's there now.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah. He's
this dude.
Scotland, I believe.
Fancy pants.
He's going to play golf in Scotland.
Yeah. He's like, I'm in the neighborhood. I'll go over to Philippe Chatrier.
Right across the street.
Just wanted to say it. And then the Rafa Nadal thing yesterday, which may or may not have been his last match ever at the French Open. Obviously, winner of 14 French Opens. He says he does want to get back on that court for the Olympics. That is totally motivating him. Whether he plays at the French next year will be, a decision made at a future date. But that was, you seized on, I think, the point that sort of got my hair standing up on my arms was in the stands, right? Djokovic, Alcaraz, Swiatek. Like, that was unbelievable, man.
Yeah, I think that really told the story. Speaking of a hot ticket, that was it. Night court under the roof. If the roof had been open, would Nadal have lost in straights? Probably not. But so it is. But yeah, that was incredible to see all of the current class of the greatest playing tennis all electing to make sure that rather than prep for a championship run, we need to be here for this part of history. And it felt like that. And, Nadal was pretty tight early on. I don't think you necessarily saw his best until, the start of the second set. But I will be completely frank and tell you that he had more tools in his arsenal than I expected coming into this one. Really just didn't think that there was much of a chance he was going to be able to produce consistent winning tennis over the balance. But what he showed, I thought, was pretty darn impressive. And his comments after the match, I thought, were pretty, they were moving also. He's been pretty candid. He's not sure if he's retiring. He thought he felt better in the last 2 months than, the 2 months prior, and that in 2 months when they do play on Philippe Chatrier in the Olympics, you would expect to see him either in singles or doubles. There's been a lot of rumbling that he and Alcaraz have some sort of deal to do doubles in the Spanish side of things, which would be like wildly cool to see.
Awesome.
So, a lot of hope that we're going to still get a couple of very memorable moments to kind of remember the King of Clay by. And I think, everybody being there and expressing the same sort of sentiment, both publicly and on the broadcast, I think it's all fair. Like, this is important because he is so clearly the best player we've ever seen play on clay. And when it's over, it's going to be just memories that you have of what he's able to produce in that setting. And I think the best I could describe it is like, yes, you can argue about who the greatest tennis player of all time is, and it's more of an all-surface argument than it is a dominance. But I do not think you can argue that the single best player in any given condition on any given day was certainly Rafa Nadal on clay. Like, his peak was that was much higher than any other. Djokovic on center court at the Australian Open, or Federer at his peak in Wimbledon, right? Like, Nadal on clay, particularly on Philippe Chatrier, was the highest rated player of all time. That's pretty cool.
You even went through it on the Beating the Book podcast by actually giving the pre-flop betting lines that he got as high as $4. Like, books were just like, we don't want you betting him.
Yeah.
And that was unprecedented. What you just said is 100% true, obviously. I'll take it one step further we'll wrap up here with 90 seconds of sports talk radio. Kelly, John Goulet, and I were watching Nadal yesterday give his speech after the match. And I said to them, and I don't know if they rolled their eyes at me or not, but what I said was, in our lifetime, taking what you just said a step further, I said, in our lifetime, I'm not sure there has been anything as dominant in sports. Pick your dynasty in basketball, pick your dynasty in football, pick your dynasty in whatever. But Rafa Nadal on clay, and particularly on that court, was the single most reliable thing in all of sports, in at least our lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of any other example that you could even hold up. Where it's like, hey, your life depends on an athlete winning something in some condition. You pick Nadal on clay in at any time between 2008 and 2019, which is just an unbelievable length that he was so dominant as well. And it was pretty special to see. And I thought, again, kind of going back to our conversation for the Megapod, the fact that it was against Zinner, that was against Zverev. It was, the fact that it was against somebody who could ultimately go on and win this tournament, I thought was a lot more kind of satisfying than to see him kind of get beaten by a player who really just didn't have much of a chance of winning the title. And it was cool to see Zverev's level as high as it was in that match as well. He was very aggressive and really played maybe his best tennis that I've seen him play at a slam, if we're being honest. And I think he could carry that to some success here, but it was amazingly cool to see it, and very thankful to have been around for this, because we're not going to get it again in our lifetime.
You were totally right about the fact that it was good that it was a strong opponent like that, as opposed to, I believe the name you gave on the pod was, as opposed to losing to, I don't know, Max Purcell. No, I think you're absolutely right.
I feel bad for burying Max Purcell. Nothing against Max Purcell. Yeah. He is out.
NBA on the other side with Drew next. Numbers game, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
A numbers game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This segment of A Numbers Game is brought to you by ZYN nicotine pouches. There's only one number one draft pick. There's only one champion at the end of the season. And there's only one nicotine pouch brand in America that outsells the rest, and that is ZYN. ZYN is a smoke-free, spit-free, hassle-free nicotine pouch that can be enjoyed anywhere, anytime. Find your ZYN at ZYN.com. That's ZYN.com. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Back with Drew Dinsick here on A Numbers Game. Gil Alexander, Kelly Bidlin. Drew is on Twitter at whale_capper, co-host of the Deep Dive and, of course, Bet the Edge podcast from NBC Sports, courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line. Drew, tonight, Game 4. Well, let's start with the macro first before we get into tonight's game. We just went over the series prices, the potential series prices for the NBA Finals. Celtics obviously through after their sweep over the Pacers. They're minus 225 against both the Mavericks, and somehow if the T-Wolves bucked history and won 4 in a row, both minus 225 against both of those teams, plus 185 on the series price of both the Mavericks and the T-Wolves, hypothetically. Do those sound right to you?
So those are reasonable starting points, I think. I guess market has sort of been talking, or at least has been considering Celtics versus who since the Game 1 win over the Pacers. So this has been a little bit maturing just through futures exposure, I suppose. My fares for the Celtics have been broken for a while now. They're just not playing anywhere close to the level of team that they are on paper. I don't know if that has to do with specifically missing Porzingis and him kind of being helping elevate everybody on the floor in terms of rating. But it felt like the Celtics were extremely fortunate to get out of that Pacers series unscathed. They probably should have lost 2 or 3 of those 4 games. And the fact that they swept their way out is pretty amazing. Their path to get to the finals is as soft as any that I can remember. You had, and not just opponents' strength, but then opponents losing humongously important pieces every step along the way. And you can't take away from what they have done. They've gotten to the NBA Finals, which is an amazingly impressive accomplishment, having lost 2 games to this point in the playoffs. And yet I look at those 2 losses and I'm like, what happened, guys?
That's right.
What happened here, guys? And you look at some of the wins against the Pacers and you're like, why did this have to be so hard?
Well, even last night,
so good.
Just real quick, before, not to interrupt your flow, but last night they win 14 of 44 from behind the arc. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. You look at the statistical profile of games 1, 3, and 4, and you're like, how did this happen? And yeah, I think it's tough. It's tough to kind of trust your a number, your flat out numbers for teams when you're at this stage, because it's so matchup dependent and it's so kind of just how the team is playing and vibes and health and all that. And so my fair. When I kind of put together minutes projections, expecting Porzingis was going to be available, I was like Celtics minus 400-ish, and I haven't bet much more Celtics title, even though my numbers say that they're the side at price. Now, the Mavericks are an interesting matchup if Lively is healthy. His availability obviously matters for tonight's game. It matters for this series, and it matters a ton for the finals. It looked to me like he got some sort of head injury, if not not whatever they're calling it, neck or back or something. It looked like he was pretty clearly concussed. And that's usually like 2.5-ish, 2-3 weeks, maybe turnaround from that type of thing if it's that bad. So I think there's a chance that the Mavericks are into the finals without Lively, and he's been such a huge part of what they want to do offensively that I think that makes the job for the Celtics defense a little bit easier. The Celtics defense has been a disappointment really this entire playoffs. And maybe some of that is just the size issues that they have. And when you're counting on your number one rim protection and option being Al Horford, like, yeah, you could look pretty bad. I get that. So yeah, Porzingis' availability is massive. I'm surprised that they didn't get him any kind of minutes in Game 4. That was a very quick ruled out of Game 4. Not even like he's going to do the shoot around and we'll see. They just pulled the plug on that way early, and his return continues to get pushed back, which I obviously don't love. So I don't think there's some more there to it, but certainly Porzingis in or out changes my Celtics number pretty substantially, and I think the Mavericks have to get some sort of bump for just the vibe that you're seeing with that team and how cooperatively they're playing and the level that you're getting out of Luka Doncic right now. So I think I come a long way to say that this is probably a realistic and fair market. And if you don't already have Celtics title, then I guess it's probably a good bet to get some now at minus 225, because if they defend home court in Game 1. This gets to minus 400. If they defend in Game 2, then all of a sudden this is looking like going to be a short finals, and you could come back on Mavericks at that point, like 5-6 to 1 if you felt like you needed to. But so I think ultimately, Celtics most likely winner. Market lean Celtics at price, but not really inclined to get involved considering I got a bunch of Celtics to win the title already.
That is a man who has some Celtics tickets right there.
And I'll jump in here, but I got Mavericks tickets, Drew. I think if we didn't have tickets, though, I don't know how you could actually bet one of these sides right now when you're talking about the injuries that you brought up. Until you know about Porzingis, until you know about Lively, I think it makes it really hard. If it's a Mavericks Celtics finals to jump in right now. And I don't know that you're going to know any information. Both those teams will probably keep it close to the vest until the finals start.
I read the Porzingis being ruled out quickly in Game 4 just as it's 3-0 and Halliburton might not play. Yeah. Why should we even bother kind of thing? But maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, it's possible. And honestly, the original report was, we may have him back for the end of round 2. Definitely going to be back for the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe Game 1. Actually, it's actually more like Game 3. Actually, Game 4, not even going to give him the questionable tag. He's out. It's like, okay, wow. So they whatever arc they had to ramp him up for full speed at the finals, it seems like they're missing it. So maybe he can get to game speed with practice opportunities between now and this finals starting, because it is like 2 months until the finals start. The overall clouds of uncertainty surrounding Porzingis aren't great. And if Lively is in, Mavericks, if you're having a Mavericks ticket, I'm not dying to get off of that. if Lively's available, because the Mavericks are playing really good basketball right now, and if you just isolate their team rating from the trade deadline to today, it's pretty close to the Celtics. Like, if you can actually probably get much closer to this price if you do a little bit of time waiting on your Mavericks tickets. I mean, Mavericks player ratings. I think I actually can come up pretty close to this. So that's sort of the name of the game for this one.
Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves, though. I started the show yesterday. First of all, your point about the NBA Finals. First thing I said yesterday was June 6th, everybody, next Thursday. We could have, if the Mavericks close it out today, 9 days before the NBA Finals actually begins, which is a whole other thing. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So Game 4 is tonight, and the Mavericks are 1.5-point favorites. And I've quoted the stat: 155 times in the history of the NBA, a team has taken a 3-0 lead. They're 155-0 in terms of actually closing them out. Only 4 of those 155 teams, 5 times, has a team forced a Game 7, including the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. But again, none of those 4 ended up winning that Game 7. But then we have the Timberwolves, who could have won, if not 1 or 2, maybe all of these games against the Mavericks. They do have, right? Not all 3-0 deficits are created equal, because this is one of those instances where the T-Wolves will have games 5 and 7 on their home court. Work with me, Drew. I'm just trying to make a case here.
Yeah, I know.
And so if they steal tonight, right, which again, they're only 1.5-point dogs, if they figure out a way to win this game, all of a sudden it creates this very strange thing where, the Mavs only have one more opportunity at home, and that's Game 6. So there is a bit of sphincter transition, if you will, sphincter tightening transition to the Mavericks side, if I may be so blunt. So, I mean, do you give – by the way, let me just say this, because here's my question. They're 8-1 on the series price on an 0-155 trend. Like, that is the most You
found 8-1?
Yeah, I see 10-1, but there's also an 8-1. This is the most shameful line I've ever seen on anything ever. Maybe. Do you like the T-Wolves' chances at all tonight? Do you think it just closed out? Game 4s are squirrely.
Yeah, they are. And again, without Lively, expecting him to be available, all of a sudden you're going to have, one of the keys of the Mavericks defense being so effective is they can have at least one of Gafford or Lively on the floor at all times. Well, now you can't. Potentially. And so, yeah, there's definitely going to be more opportunity for the Timberwolves offense, I think, in this game. They're basically been able to put a lid on Anthony Edwards, in part because it looks like he's just gassed, and in part because of just some of the decisions that they're making defensively and the outstanding rim protection they're getting. But, yeah, I give the Timberwolves a chance tonight for sure. I mean, and your points are fair, where, like, you're on the road, you're a small dog. Like, that changes all of the math and the calculus about what a comeback would be possible. Like, we went through the same thing with the Celtics last year against the Heat when they were, 0-3, and their series price was very bettable at that time. I think it was in the same range of 8-1, 10-1, and that was a better bet, I think, than the Timberwolves is. But yeah, this waking up and finding ourselves in Game 6 feels very realistic. And if you haven't been betting the Mavericks for longer than this playoff run, guess what? Like, this is a team that plays with its food. Like, it's never easy with these guys. It never is. And I doubt that this is going to be a comfortable win. And I played some over tonight.
You played some over. Okay, there's the bet. Drew, thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, best of luck, guys.
We always talk about shopping from book to book. How about shopping within the same book? We take a dive into that next.
A numbers game on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We're so close to crowning an NBA champ, and with the action heating up on the court, it's even hotter at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New to DraftKings? Listen up. New customers can get a no-sweat bet up to $1,500. Just deposit at least $5. You'll get a bonus bet back equal to your first bet if it doesn't hit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code VSiN. The crown is yours. Gil Alexander, we get tweets at Beating the Book. Always appreciate the feedback. Ray Pierce, I would like to posit, underutilized word, he says, parenthetical aside. I would like to posit something. The 154-0, now 155-0, does not apply to Mavs Wolves because most of the 155s were far superior to the O's. These two are so even that the coin flip 15-1 seems about right. Okay. Mark?
I mean, I know the point he's trying to make.
I do. You're right. Well, that was the point I was trying to make, too, right? Which is like, okay, like...
They're a good team.
They could... Again, I called the Mavs T-Wolves, the Nuggets T-Wolves. I called it the NBA Finals, for God's sakes.
Yep.
Okay, this is from Torch D. Torch D, we're going to get to this sometime in July. He says, can you guys do a segment where you give your top 10 sporting events of the year? For example, Super Bowl, March Madness, the Masters, NFL regular season, on and on. We'll do that at some point in the summer.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah.
Brian M. Oh, yes, Gil. It's 100% your fault that Kelly becomes a crazy person. Nothing to do with having lived in both Florida and Russia, completely normal places. What did you add? Oh, you forgot Venezuela and Alaska, too.
I forgot a couple spots, yeah.
And then Trip Tepper, I'd offer up Michael Phelps as an athlete equal to Nadal in terms of total dominance in his sport. His 2008 Summer Olympics performance in Beijing, winning 8 gold medals, was just absurd. Perhaps his 28 medals and 23 of them are gold. Phelps, rather, has 28 medals, 23 of which are gold.
I think that's I actually think that's a good example. I think the biggest difference would be how long Nadal did it for, right?
Right.
Which is unfair to expect of Michael Phelps. Like, you can't swim for,
I'm sure
18 years.
I'm sure swimming goes on during, in between Olympics, too. We're just not aware of it, right?
Yeah.
Well. He's referring to the Olympics domination as well. Real quick before we get to what I want to talk about, how do they say it on PTI? A melancholy goodbye to Bill Walton. Bill Walton, one of the NBA greats, of course, on the top 50 players list when that came out, top 75 players of all time, NBA champion, 3-time NCAA champion at UCLA, obviously an NBA champion with the Blazers in 1977, and really known, Kelly, to just the younger generation, right? Not as a basketball player, but as a lovable announcer.
That's all I knew him as, yeah.
Even you, and you're in your 30s. Yep. Bill, who quipped such things with his partner Dave Pash. I'll give a couple quotes. He was always doing superlatives. One of the 6 worst possessions in the history of Blazer basketball. 48 years. Please make a shot. Pass the ball. Look at Nurkic play. He's from Bosnia. How'd he get over here? Or my favorite, when Nick Young was playing and Pash goes, here's Swaggy P. And Walton goes, who? Swaggy P is Nick Young's nickname. And Walton says, I wouldn't have guessed that. But that was just honestly, and I think I speak for many where I say, I didn't even know Bill Walton was sick, right? I didn't know he had, there's some rumblings that it was prostate cancer. I had no idea. I think most didn't. Perhaps Bill wanted it that way. But as a basketball player, it is hard to express how, this was Larry Bird's idol. He saw Bill Walton play basketball, and he immediately knew this is the correct way to play basketball. Bill Walton was the greatest passing center there ever was, Jokic-like, if you will. Jokic is Walton-like. And if it were not for injuries, God knows, he's already on the top 50 players of all time list in the top 75. If he didn't have injuries, God knows what this guy could have done. I recommend to everybody the 30 for 30 4-part series on Bill Walton called The Luckiest Guy in the World, which is what he called himself. It is awesome. It is long, but I was not necessarily a guy who gravitated towards Bill Walton, but I was riveted for all 4 episodes when I watched it. I think it's an Ezra Edelman one, the same guy that did the 10-part OJ stuff. So it's really in-depth and really well done. But what was so clear from that is, for those of us, because UCLA days, I was too young to even know those days. I was kind of almost too young for the Blazers season. But he came to the NBA after the dominance at UCLA, and he was just riddled with foot injuries. Foot injuries, by the way, that doctors couldn't identify. And so when he became a pro in Portland, he was kind of disliked because people didn't understand why he was sitting. They questioned him sitting. They questioned his political views. They questioned his vegetarianism, all kinds of things. And then magically, it's like the universe decided, we're going to give you 1 year where you're not hurt. And they won the championship, beating the much more talented, by everyone's analysis, Philadelphia 76ers of Dr. J, Darryl Dawkins, Doug Collins, and so on. And they won. They were down 2-0 in that series. They won the next 4 games, and Portland had itself an NBA championship. And then after that, he was riddled with – he was the MVP in 1978.
Yes, MVP, yeah.
The year the Washington Bullets ended up winning the championship. He was the MVP that regular season, but then the foot happened again, and he was lost for the rest of the season, so the Sonics beat them in the playoffs. And Then he was a Clipper, injuries to to all kinds of body parts, the back. He broke his back several times. But then he had a final basketball playing celebration, if you will, of his career when he was the sixth man on the 85-86 Celtics. And they won the title. And so Bill Walton, one of the greats of all time, and I really do recommend that 30 for 30.
He was, one of 9, I think it is, to win the Naismith and to win an NBA MVP award, which I caught that yesterday. I'm just blown away. There's not more. I mean, obviously, you've had so many guys, not go to college or leave college. The game's changed so much since then, but still, 1 of 9 guys, it's pretty impressive to be able to say. And for my generation, yeah, man, it's like, how many Pac-12 basketball games I ended up watching later than I would have ever because he was on the call? Like, he's one of the most influential game commentators of all time.
Falika texted immediately yesterday. He's like, isn't it ironic that he passed away right after the last Pac-12 sporting event? He loved that conference. The Conference of Champions, he used to call them all the time. Swaggy P, I wouldn't have guessed that. Rest in peace, Bill Walton. Now, I give Kelly all the credit on this because we always talk about on this show, and I'm sure all the other shows here at VSiN do as well, we always talk about shop around from book to book for prices. Kelly has done a great job of saying, not only that, shop around within a book because you've got different markets that are in effect the same bet, and you got different prices. So I give it to you, Kelly, because you did this sort of happened by accident yesterday where you saw a couple, you're like, we gotta highlight these.
Yeah, it's and look, it is DraftKings, so I bring up DraftKings, who we work for, but we talk about shopping within the same book. This were your odds that were up yesterday before the game started. This is about noon Pacific time, 3 Eastern time, and I just wanted to kind of isolate where the Celtics were priced at in every market, because like you said, we bring that up. We use it as a pro tip a lot of shopper at price shop. Make sure you're doing that, but shopping within basically the same book, right? And this is so. Let's just run through these. Where these are very similar. Yes, the Boston-Dallas exact outcome was minus 185 yesterday, which that would have been the best Boston bet you could have made in the moment, basically anywhere in the country. I couldn't find that.
Boston
that
to
number.
beat Dallas.
Boston to beat Dallas in the NBA Finals. Now, all these markets aren't created exactly equal, right, Gil? Obviously, Boston had not won. Dallas has not won yet. So you do expect a little bit of a price decrease from the regular futures number. But from minus 225 to minus 185 with 2 series that are 3-0, that's a pretty massive difference. And if you're a bettor out there, something that you should be looking to take advantage of. Okay, series look-ahead price, we kind of went over that already today. Hasn't really moved much. That matched what their odds were to win the NBA Finals. In theory, that should be matching exactly what that exacta price is, right? So that's the one where you could say there's a 40-cent difference in the same bet that you could make in the same book. So that was a big one. And then if you want to go a step further, conference to win the NBA Finals, Eastern Conference at minus 230, it's even 45-cent difference then at that point. So I wanted to bring this up because, like you said, we talk about it a lot. That was one of the better examples that I ever came across yesterday. We're just going through some odds that were up at DraftKings, and it's not always the same, right? It's definitely just happens to be sometimes what time you look at stuff and where different things are being priced at and maybe being bet at. And that's likely what's shaping a lot of these numbers is where money's coming in at. But to see that big of a difference, I mean, those are things that you got to be willing to take advantage of, when you see that big of a difference.
Willing to take the extra 30 seconds to a minute it might take to just browse. And a lot of these are not, a lot of books are not as intuitively navigating as others, right? Navigatable. But yes, it pays, or it is worth the time it takes to find, because you're right, 45 cent difference.
It's huge.
That stuff matters, man.
And it's exactly that, right? We have all these books that have all these markets up now. Like, you obviously go to the book with a bet in mind, but take the extra 90 seconds to say, hey, let me look at these other markets.
Matt Grissom joins us on the other side from collegebaseballinsiders.com. We've got super regionals. He's got plays. That's next on A Numbers Game at VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're this close to crowning an NBA champ, and with the action heating up on the court, it's even hotter.